Good afternoon, everyone, or whatever time of day it is when you are watching this. My name is Madeline, and this is the MadyMack podcast, all about my various crafting adventures. I live currently in Connecticut with my husband Matthew and our two cats, who are both just barely out of frame. Baby is on the back of the couch here, and Moo is on the floor. And hopefully, or I can at least show you Baby here really quickly. There she is, just getting a little nap in the sun. And I have quite a few things to share with you all today. We got a couple finished objects, plenty of whips, and a few acquisitions as well. It's been an exciting time. We are also in the process of kind of moving. We've got new orders from the Navy and the holidays going on and everything, and so all that kind of like transition time and a lot of travel time allows for quite a bit of knitting, and I've tried to throw in some sewing and embroidery as well. So yeah, it's been a good time and looking forward to sharing it with you all. So my first finished object is this right here that I have on. This is my Free Your Fade by Andrea Mowry, and I made it in the 13 Days of Salem, the Halloween Advent that Sewrella put out this year. Let's see, I'll show it to you in all of its glory. It starts out at this end. This is day one. And then you just kind of go through all the colors. That's the good, nice fade pattern, which I did not always stick to because I was trying really hard to use pretty much every teeny tiny little bit of that yarn. But I did end up with a little, like as I went, if I couldn't finish a row, I made a magic knot ball out of it. So I might make like a little coaster or something with the extra, but there's only like 8 grams of extra, so not much at all. Yeah, but I'm very happy with this project. The Free Your Fade definitely worked great with the minis. I think it really makes them look quite cohesive, and I'm very happy with it. And also, this is my first asymmetrical shawl, which is a little bit of a different animal when it comes to wearing, but not too bad. I just wrapped this long side around twice so that the tail is a bit shorter, which I think works out really well. I probably won't put it back on now, but yeah, kind of too bad that I didn't get this finished until Thanksgiving. So it kind of missed its peak fall season and its lovely fall colors, but I will still continue to wear it as long as the weather calls for it. So yeah, it will definitely get some good use, and in future years as well, of course. Yeah, so this was like my main thing coming out of October and into November. I knew I wanted to get it done. So this was kind of like my major project for the month. But I did also get to finish, up my niece's Christmas gift. So this is the Novice Sweater Junior by Petite Knit. This is made out of 2 strands. One was Sewrella worsted from her Netflix collection. It was the color, I actually have another full skein of it here. It was her Encanto themed color called Casita. And I have this much left from the sweater plus one more full skein for a project for me to make for myself, because I loved the colors so much. They're so bright and happy. And bright and happy is what I need during the dark, wet winter months. Yeah, and then the other strand was CaMaRose Midnight Soul in the color Pommel Rose, I believe. And yes, it turned out great. I made the size 5 for my almost 4-year-old niece. I wanted it to fit for more than 1 year, so I decided to size up. And you know, worst case scenario, it's a cozy layering piece. But I do hope it fits pretty well. I also knew I wanted them to be able to machine wash it, so just in case it shrunk, I wanted it to be a little bit big. And I did run this through the washer and then just laid it flat to dry. And there is definitely less of a halo from the mohair than there was before. So I think the mohair kind of felt into it, but I don't think it messes with the look or feel of the sweater at all. I think it just feels nice and cozy, and I do hope that it will be a good option for her. Yeah, so really looking forward to that. I did, though, just in case they ever feel like hand washing them, I did get a set of these wool wash samples from Sewrella, and 2 of them in the packet were unscented, which is what I will give for both this sweater. And then if you saw my last podcast, I did make another Petite knit baby sweater. It was the Anchor Sweater Junior for my nephew, who is now a year old. So it'd be good to see them at Christmas and be able to give these gifts. And you know, I just thought this was a nice little extra to throw in the bag with it. So, and then those were my 2 knitting finished objects for the month of November. I do have one more knitting one that I finished up in the past few days, but something I'm excited about is that I did sew a little bit as well. I love to sew. Sewing was kind of my first major clothing hobby. Like, I learned how to knit whenever I was in elementary school. I learned how to sew when I was in middle school. But neither of them really took off for me until I was in college. And then ever since then, it's just a love that has continued to grow. Something that I'm sure a lot of you can relate to. So it was nice to get back to some sewing. I do feel like in kind of the hecticness that has been the last year or so, like a lot of moving around and things like that, a portable project like knitting is so much easier than something like sewing. But it is really nice to get to whenever you can, because like I made a whole skirt in an afternoon rather than, you know, one shawl in a month. So it's also a bit more like gratifying in that way. But I am very happy with this project. I had originally planned on making it over the summer. A friend of mine was getting married and I wanted to be able to wear this. But then the weather ended up turning and it was going to be quite cold, and so this wouldn't have really been weather appropriate anyway. So instead I made it for Thanksgiving, and it's just a really fun material, very lightweight, yellow with the white flowers, and it has 3 tiers. They're little circle skirt tiers, and they're all attached to this underskirt with an elastic waist. Very cute, and very comfortable as well. This was made from McCall's M8150 in View B. So here's hers here. And I just did the pattern as is. I didn't make any adjustments at all. And then lastly, I finished up this pair of Christmas socks for Matthew. These are the Broken Rope socks from the Hello Sailor sock set by Summerly Knits. This was the gem sock stripe pattern, and I'm so happy with them. And blocking is magical, just like everyone says. The stitches are so much more even now. My 1x1 rib is not the most neat and not my favorite thing to knit, but I really loved this pattern and I really wanted to make it, so it was definitely worth it. And also it was kind of fun to not just do straight stockinette. So very happy with these. The yarn is from Willow Cottage yarns in the colorway North Pole. These were sock sets that I bought off Etsy last year. And I have the same sock set to make a pair for myself as well. Yeah, very happy with them. I am glad that they're not overtly Christmassy because I feel like they'll get more wear that way. Whereas mine, which I'll go ahead and show you now, is feeling very Christmassy so far. I'm doing these Cider house socks for myself, also by Summerly Knits. And so I used the 2 minis to do the striped cuff, and it's feeling very Christmassy. I'm still enjoying them and I still think they're gonna be great. I just think they will, you know, they won't carry into the rest of the year quite as well as these will, but I still think that they will be lovely and a nice like offset for each other. Last year I made us matching Oslo hats, and so I'm very grateful that he will indulge me in this little matching tradition. It's probably a little silly, but I think it's fun when, you know, it's obvious that we go together. Yeah, so this is made in the same yarn, this just using 2 minis rather than 1. Yeah, and technically I do have one other thing that I'm calling a finished object, although there is a next step I would like to take with it. I did this little embroidery on a scrap of faux suede. It says, "You are my cup of tea," and then it just has some fun florals around it. Last year I had made a little embroidered pillow to go on the bed, but like I accidentally messed up the trim around the outside of the pillow, so it's kind of starting to come apart a little bit, and I really wanted to make a new one. So I wanted to do a bit of a patchwork thing, so I have these other like very fall scrap fabrics that I wanted to put together, but I never quite got around to it. And then I have some extra trim as well. I also need to get a pillow insert to put in it, so I'll probably put the whole pillow together sometime next year because I won't need it and I would just have to store it until the next fall. But I'm going to go ahead and consider the little embroidery to be a finished object. Yeah. So very cute, and the way I filled in the letters I think will look a lot better when it's stretched tight also and not pulling together. So yeah, those are my finished objects for November and on into December. Now a whole week of December has gone by. This year is just sprinting to the end, I feel like. Yeah, but I don't know, what should I show next? I have another sewing thing that I'm quite excited about, so I think I will move on to that one. So last year, I guess I should start this little story a different way. So growing up, we always had these decorations that my great-grandmother made. They were mainly those Bucilla like felt applique kits. My whole family, everyone, you know, spouses, people who are married into the family, you know, everyone, their kids, their, you know, aunts, uncles, cousins, everybody had a stocking that my great-grandmother had made. My mom also had like a wall hanging and a tree skirt and like some other little decorations. You know, there's also the ornament ones, and they were all these things that were made by my great-grandmother, who has long since passed, but they're little pieces of her that we could all hang on to and remember, and I always loved that. After she died, my grandma did try to keep it up. She made these stockings for my younger siblings who were born after my great-grandmother died. But she has dementia now and can't do it. And so whenever I got married, I wanted my husband to have one that coordinated with, you know, the whole rest of the family. And so I bought one of those Bucilla applique kits and I made him a stocking. And then I kind of went perhaps a little overboard, but I also ordered a wall hanging and a advent calendar and a tree skirt. And I was thinking, you know, I can do all of these by Christmas. I can have exactly the same Christmas decorations, you know, inspired by the ones that I grew up with, and it's gonna be great. No, just the one stocking took me weeks. And so then I was like, no, I'll do one a year. And I was like, I'll do the tree skirt next year because that's the next most important thing, and then I'll move on from there. But this year, our Christmas plans have had to make a couple adjustments. We found out the week before Thanksgiving that we are moving to North Carolina in January. So all of our stuff is getting packed up in the next few weeks and we're making a big move. And so there will be no Christmas decorations for us. So that has been sad, but it's okay. It's one phase of life, 1 year, and we'll decorate next year. So there's no reason to have a tree skirt if you don't have a tree to put it around. So I'm gonna wait and do the tree skirt next year. This year, instead, I have been working on a Christmas quilt. So I'm making a queen size quilt because I would like to be able to put it on the bed as well as just like to have. So that's what we're doing, and I need 30 squares for that. I currently have 20 done, so I made some pretty good headway. And I am doing this same pattern as this quilt on the back of the couches, but I didn't want it to be exactly the same. So I don't know if you'll be able to tell, but the triangles here are the same fabric as these little squares. So it kind of looks like, you know, the whole diamond. I decided to switch that up this time, and I did different fabrics for those two. It adds a little bit more like variation and fun in it, I think. And I'll just show you a couple of these while I talk about them. I got all of the fabrics. I bought them in a bundle on Etsy. I believe it was called Merry and Bright, was the fabric collection. I did buy it last year, but I'm pretty sure it's still available. But these are more my version of Christmas colors. Like I added in this green as the background color to kind of make it feel slightly more festive, but I love the like a mustard tones and the peaches and the blues that are in this, rather than just red and green. It also feels a little bit more wintry rather than just Christmassy, so that it can stay out a little bit longer. But yes, so I'm very excited to keep putting this together, and I think this will be nice because especially once I get the quilt top put all together, I do still need to order the batting to go in the middle. And if anyone is curious, I use the batting by, I believe it's Hoffman. It's just a 100% cotton fusible batting, so you can iron all the layers together, which I just find a lot easier to work with than having it all pinned together. So once I get all that put together, even if we're moving and everything, and honestly, if we're moving and I just have like a giant space on the floor or like the countertop or something, it'll be a lot easier to maneuver to do the top stitching, the quilting, than if I'm trying to negotiate a different sort of area. So I think this will be a good moving sewing project, and it will mean that I have a nice Christmas quilt to use next year. So I am excited for that. Yeah, and I probably won't show you all of these because I'm sure it'll get boring. but I'll just show you a few more. I love these little gingerbread. Oh, there's gingerbread man. Super cute. Yeah. So that's enough of those, but I have 20 done, and then I have this stack here of the pieces that will be the last 10, and then I'll make 2 more to do for the like shams, and yeah, really excited for it and to have it done. Yes. And then as far as my other works in progress go, I did already show you the little socks. So I was hoping to do these for Knitty Natty's Sockmas knit along, but I only have 2 of these tiny circulars, and I had them both on these. I thought that I could have these finished by the day after Thanksgiving, and so I didn't bring any other needles with me whenever we went to see family for Thanksgiving. So I had to wait until I finished at least one of these to cast on the others, which meant that now I only have 2 cuffs done. I have not gotten very far at all, so it's doubtful that I'll be able to get both done, because I think the knit along ends on the 13th, so probably won't be able to make it, but nevertheless, they've been fun and they will be done by Christmas, I think. So not too worried about that, but it has been fun. Yeah, all of my projects are actually pretty festive right now. I am working on my pressed flowers shawl. This is my second pressed flowers shawl by Amy Christoffers, or Savory Knitting. And these are in the Birch Grove colors Hemlock and Understory. And I really love how it's coming together. I'm currently on the 6th repeat out of 11, and then you have like a different chart for the border. So I'm also hopeful that this can be done by Christmas, because I think it's very festive and beautiful and will keep me nice and toasty. Really enjoying this project. The pattern, once you get through 1 or 2 repeats, is pretty easy to memorize. So it's still a little, for me at least, it's too complicated to do in the dark, because you do need to kind of like make sure that you're lining up the different motifs, but it is very lovely, and it's also very good to work on in airplane because there's interest but not too much interest. So I do think that this will get a lot of work done on it soon in the next little bit. And then last night I cast on a new project. So for Christmas, we're going to visit my husband's family in the Seattle area, and it will be quite cold there. And then after Christmas, we're going skiing for a few days up there, which will be very cold. And so I was asking him, you know, what would you rather me finish? Would you rather have the hat first, or I'm gonna make him some mittens out of the leftover yarn from his saving sweater. I was like, which would you rather have? And he said he would rather have the hat. I did make him a red ribbed hat as the very first thing I ever made him, but since it was a little while ago and I didn't really know much about yarn yet, I made it out of 100% acrylic. It's terrible. He only wore it a couple of times and it looks awful. It did not age well at all. So I was like, you can't wear that out in public. I'll make you a new red hat. And so I got started. I had to learn how to do the 2x2 tubular cast on last night. I've only done a few rows since then, but this is the Hipster hat by Petite Knit. I think it should work out pretty quickly. I mean, I only cast it on and did what, like 4 rows on it, and it only took about an hour. And this is good in the dark knitting, so that will also come in handy over the next few weeks as we, you know, travel at night, go see movies, things like that. So very excited about this. And then also I think the mittens will be a good quick project. I could even make those once we're already there at Christmas, and they shouldn't take long at all. And then I have one last project that I've already cast on, and this is one that I do hope to have done by Christmas, but I'm not sure that it's entirely feasible. This is the Tulip sweater by Hoffman, and I am making it in Nutiden. So let me get all my strands straight here. Try not to break any of them. So I have, so I started with the two smallest plates of Nutiden that I had, and then a strand of mohair. This is Knitting for Olive in the color Plum Clay. There we go. And I do not know how to pronounce any of the names for the Nutiden. I believe this one starts with a J. I bought it in roughly March, if that helps, because I know they don't repeat colorways, so probably wouldn't be able to get it anyway. But this combo I'm really loving. There's, whenever you just hold them together, I think this one definitely looks more purple than the Nutiden, but when they are all together in the fabric, I think it goes together really, really consistently, and I'm very happy with it. I've done some of the raglan increases. I'm not terribly far into it yet. I think that since the gauge is pretty large, what I have done has gone quickly. I've just been prioritizing other projects, so this one hasn't gotten a ton of work, but I think if I put my mind to it, I might be able to get this done in time, because this will be a very, very warm sweater, and I get very cold in not even that cold of climates. So I know that if we're in the snow and we're consistently in the snow, I'm going to be freezing, and I would like to be able to put this sweater to good use whenever I have the perfect setting for it. So it's definitely going to try to put more of a focus on that in the next coming weeks. And that, I do believe, is everything that oh no, I have one more sitting here right in front of me. I also decided to join the Sari Nordlund's mystery sock knit along. It's not that I didn't already have enough things to work on, because I do. I love Sari Nordlund's patterns, but I've always been pretty intimidated by them. They're so intricate and detailed and challenging looking, and I do like a challenge, but I also prefer knitting to be relatively mindless to me, because it's a bit of an escape, you know? Something to do when you're tired and your brain's tired and you've had a long day at work and all those sorts of things. But I've also always wanted to do one of hers, so I thought that doing it as a mystery was kind of the perfect solution, because it's just a sock. A sock is not a huge amount of knitting, and so the chart's going to be small and all those sorts of things. And yeah, it felt like a good place to begin. And I am using another Sewrella yarn. This is also from her Knitflix collection. This is the color Bake, which I believe is based on the Great British Bake Off. And this is the least variegated, or least obviously variegated, I guess, sock yarn that I had to use, so it felt like a good match. There's definitely variegation in there, but there's such pastel colors that I felt like it was still pretty cohesive. And Sari Nordlund has posted pictures of this, so I'm not too worried about showing it. But I have finished the first clue, and I did finish the first clue on Sunday, so before the second clue came out, but I have not even looked at the second clue yet. So it's got some very beautiful twisted stitches and cables and a little bit of lace, and yes, really enjoying it now that it's big enough that I could put it on the 9-inch circulars, because I did the first little bit on DPNs and it was just so tiny and fiddly and difficult, and just that part took me, I don't know, more than a day. But once I got to the full width and I could put on the DPNs, it flew. It was so much better. But yeah, so I am going to try my best to keep up with the clues as they come out for the first sock, but I'm not planning on doing the second sock until January. That's just too many socks to make it once. I just finished a pair, I still have a pair going, and then this one. Yeah, so that, I hope I didn't go too fast because I feel like that was a lot of things to have covered, but I do still have a few things left, but they are acquisitions, so a little bit different. I'm gonna scoot over just a little bit and grab them. All right, so the first acquisition that I will talk about is my advent calendar. So I've not been knitting it as I go. I never intended to knit it as I went. That just, especially after I did the Halloween one and I was completely incapable of doing 13 in a span of a few weeks. There's no way I was going to be able to get through 24. So I just decided to not even try to do that and to just enjoy it, enjoy opening it. Also, mysteries and surprises are not my favorite thing in the world. I would never join like the Stephen West mystery knit along because that is a lot of work to do for something that you have no idea if you're going to like or not. And while he is a genius with his designs, some of his stuff is pretty far out there and I know I wouldn't wear it myself, so like that's just not worth the risk. I don't know. I like to plan things out. I like to know what the result is going to be. I like to be able to pick my colors and my patterns and everything based on what I know I will get good use out of. So like the sock mystery knit along, like Sari Nordlund socks are all beautiful, and it's also just a sock, so I could easily, you know, just wear it inside shoes if I didn't like the way it turned out. Or, you know, if I decide that I don't want to finish it, ripping it out won't be a huge cost to myself because I didn't spend as long knitting it as the, you know, 40, 50, 60 hours that people put into like a shawl. Anyway, so all that being said, I knew I would feel better about using all these minis in a project if I knew what they looked like first. Now I got Stress Knits Advent and I love all of her colors, so I knew I would like the colors. I just didn't know exactly what the colors were going to be and what they would look best in. Part of me wishes that I had decided to do the stripes like Stacy is doing herself, because it looks beautiful, but I'm also happy with the plan that I have since come up with. Excuse me. So here are the little things that came in it. This has a little welcome note on the back, and this one has the codes for the patterns that came with the box, and then there are also a couple of little stickers. And my husband is a huge houseplant guy, so I think he will actually probably end up with a lot of these. Yeah, so it's been a lot of fun to go through, and I've been putting them back in their little packaging as I go, so that I can use them in order whenever I finally do decide that it's time to start this project. So that was the first one, and then I'll show you today's. Today is the 9th. I have not been peeking or anything. I've been keeping up with as you go. They're all beautiful colors. And I think they're really cohesive, which I'm very happy about. But I was opening this, working on my pressed flowers, And also, as I said, I do like to plan. I like to plan obscenely far in advance, way more than what is probably normal, but you know what, that's fine. I'm gonna do me, you do you. And I've been thinking just like in my head, you know, like the place that your mind goes when you're not thinking about anything. Mine is 10 years in the future. And so I was thinking, you know, my husband and I, we don't have any kids yet, but we would like to. And I want to have 4 would be kind of like what I would consider to be my ideal. And so we've been like just talking about names, just like for fun. And I've been thinking, because you know I am a crafter, about what blankets and clothes and everything that I'd like to make for him, especially because I've been watching the well-loved Knits podcast, and she just had her baby recently, and looking at all those baby knits, and also Carslee Handmade. I don't think she's had her baby yet, but is expecting soon, and all of her baby knits, and it's just so much fun to watch and gives me so many ideas for someday. And one of the things is, I always thought working on this, especially whenever I made my first one, which is very pink, that this would make a beautiful baby blanket. Probably, you know, just a traditional rectangle. I'm not good at adapting patterns. I do not want to have to do the thinking required for that, but so I'd probably just use this like slip stitch pattern for it. But I was thinking it would be so cute to have probably like a dark charcoal gray for the background, and then each stripe of the flowers would be a different one of these minis. And since this Advent is called the Planty Holidays, it's supposed to be inspired by different house plants, different cut flowers, things like that. Doing it as the pressed flowers baby blanket just seemed so thematic and perfect. So I think that's what this will be someday, you know, and I probably won't wait until we have a kid to do it, or are expecting, because even if, you know, we don't end up having, I would probably do this for a girl, not for a boy. Even if, you know, we don't ever end up having a girl, I could always give it away to someone else who does. But I think it would make a beautiful baby blanket. I mean, these colors are just perfect. And it's one of my favorites. It was very terracotta. There's a wonderful mustard. Yeah. If you haven't seen, excuse me, my throat's getting dry. Love mustard. If you haven't seen the stripes that Stacy has been doing over at Stress Knits so far, you should definitely go check it out. It is beautiful. Yeah. So I have several more days to open up of this, and then I also have the full skein, which I'm excited about. But yeah, so this has been really nice to look forward to every day. And I'm even more excited to work with it eventually, but it probably won't be for a little while, just because the projects that I've decided to do with it, or at least that I'm currently inspired to use it for, has no real deadline or anything, so that'll just be at some point in the future. And then I also, so Sewrella yarn, I got her mini skein set for our fall tonals. I was originally planning on using this to make, I think it's called the Astrid pillow by McCall crochet, McCall, I'm not really sure how you pronounce it, to go with the Christmas quilt. And I knew it was going to be a stretch, but online I really thought it was probably a close match, and some of them are. Like that green and the blue and the gold are like kind of perfect, but the colors on this end just I don't know. Now that I'm looking at it in the camera, maybe I was too hasty in changing my mind and this will still become a pillow. But that was my plan for it. But whenever it first came in the mail, I just didn't feel like it matched well enough. I was like, I'll get something else that matches a bit more perfectly, like maybe just this golden color. But yeah, so that was my original plan. I also got one skein, full skein of the ceramic. The neutral that went, oh, goes that way. The neutral that went with this palette. But together, they're kind of the perfect palette for the Luminaria shawl, which is one that I have had favorited. Sorry, I'm gonna get a sip of my coffee. Which I've had favorited on Ravelry for a long time. So I think that's what this is destined to become, but maybe when I finish up the quilt, it will start singing to me again in a more pillowy way, but for now, that is what I think it will become. And then lastly, I shopped the La Mercerie sock set update. I did not participate in the sock swap. I just have too much going on right now. But whenever she posted these, I just thought they were too perfect to pass up on. And also 2 of them are by Sewrella yarn, and I'm obsessed. So I had to get them. I got both of the ones that she did. I believe this one's called, and I always pronounce his name wrong, but Tchaikovsky, whoever it was that wrote the Nutcracker. And this is beautiful. Honestly, I don't know what I'm gonna do with this one. It just feels like it needs to be something besides socks, but I'm not sure what. So, really loving this one, but I'm not sure what it's gonna be. And then this one I believe is called Snow Globe. And I love the kind of pastel colors. Like, I feel like it goes really well with this bake. This is just the more blue version and this one's more pink. And I think that this I will use to make myself a version of the broken rope socks. I think that would look really nice. And then from Craft Me Not, and this is the Orange Garland and Rosemary color. And I got the Colorwork Socks book by Stone Knits, and there's an orange slices sock pattern in that book that I think this is going to be. I just need to get a white to kind of go as the background. And then lastly, from the Yarn Baker, I got Bedford Falls is the name of the colorway. And I hope everyone is familiar with the movie that this is from, but it's a reference to It's a Wonderful Life, and that is my all-time favorite Christmas movie. And so I had to get this one. Plus I love this deep dark green. And this one, I think I want to make the socks by Melody Hoffman. What's it called? Like Into the Woods, In the Woods, something like that. I think that'll be really nice. Yeah, so that is all of my acquisitions. It's been quite the crafty time around here. Next time I will see you all from a new location. Hopefully our transition and packing up and unpacking and everything will be pretty smooth. If anyone is interested in anything like setting up a craft room or anything like that, please let me know. Also, I was thinking about doing a little video. So if you look a little bit farther back on my channel, you'll see that most of the things that I posted before I started these podcasts was all related to paper crafting and scrapbooking and that sort of thing. I have been keeping a craft journal throughout this whole year. So sorry if you can hear they're doing some kind of work outside, I guess. But I have been keeping up a craft journal, and I was thinking about doing a little video of a flip through that at some point in the new year. Yeah, so let me know if either of those are things you'd be interested in, or if you have any other ideas. Please leave a little comment down below. Would love to hear from you, and hope you all have a great rest of your December and a lovely new year.